Claude Opus 4.6 just beat GPT-4 on every single coding benchmark by margins nobody expected.
Wait, every benchmark? Even the ones OpenAI specifically optimized for? So we're breaking down the agent teams feature, the new compaction system, and how it actually performs in real workflows.
By minute 4, you'll know exactly which tasks to migrate first. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the AI Daily Podcast. Today's news and a deep dive to help you stay ahead in AI.
Today, we're diving into Claude Opus 4.6.
Stick around to the end for today's headlines. Let's dive right in.
So, Anthropic just dropped Claude Opus 4.6, and this isn't just another incremental model update. We're talking about a 1 million token context window in beta, state-of-the-art performance on Terminal Bench 2.0, and what they're claiming is a 144 ELO point lead over GPT 5.2 on economically valuable tasks.
Hold up, 1 million tokens? That's what, roughly 750,000 words? That's like processing multiple novels at once.
Exactly. And here's what's fascinating. This is the first Opus-class model from Anthropic to hit that milestone. They've been conservative with context windows on their flagship models, prioritizing quality over quantity. But now they're pushing both boundaries simultaneously.
I mean, context windows are great, but how often are developers actually hitting those limits? Most of my API calls are nowhere near even 100K tokens.
That's the right question. But think about code bases. The announcement specifically mentions operating more reliably in larger code bases. We're not talking about single file analysis anymore. This is about understanding entire project structures, dependencies, cross-file relationships.
Oh, that changes things. So theoretically, I could feed it our entire microservices architecture and have it understand the full context?
Not just understand it, debug it, review it, and catch mistakes across the entire system. They're claiming better code review and debugging skills specifically designed to catch the model's own mistakes. That's a level of self-awareness we haven't really seen before.
But wait, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Anthropic was founded by ex-OpenAI folks who left over safety disagreements, right? Is this push for more powerful models contradicting their original mission?
That's the tension, isn't it? Dario Amodei and his team left OpenAI in 2021, specifically because they wanted to focus on AI safety through constitutional AI. Yet, here we are 3 years later, and they're in an arms race with the company they left behind.
Constitutional AI. Remind me how that actually works in practice.
So instead of just training on human feedback, they train the model to follow a set of principles, a constitution. The model learns to critique and revise its own outputs based on these principles. It's like giving the AI an ethical framework rather than just pattern matching on what humans prefer.
Sounds good in theory, but how do we know it's actually safer? Couldn't that just be marketing?
Well, they published an extensive system part showing Opus 4.6 has low rates of misaligned behavior across safety evaluations. But you're right to be skeptical. The real test is in production use. What happens when this hits real-world edge cases?
Speaking of real-world use, they mentioned something called co-work, where Claude can multitask autonomously.
Yeah, that's their agentic workspace. Think of it as Claude not just answering questions, but actually doing work, running financial analyses, creating presentations, doing research across multiple sources simultaneously. It's moving from assistant to actual coworker.
That sounds like it could replace a lot of knowledge workers.
Or augment them. But you're touching on something important. The GDP-Val AA benchmark they're touting specifically measures economically valuable knowledge work tasks. They're not hiding that this is designed to do real work that currently requires human expertise.
Those benchmark numbers, 144 ELO points ahead of GPT 5.2, how significant is that really?
In chess, 144 ELO points means you'd expect to win about 70% of games against your opponent. Applied to AI tasks, that's a substantial gap in performance, and they're 190 points ahead of their own previous model.
So this isn't just iterative improvement, this is a genuine leap forward.
Exactly. And timing matters here. OpenAI just released GPT 5.2, Google's pushing Gemini updates monthly, and now Anthropic drops this. The pace of competition is accelerating. Coming up, we'll dig into exactly how they achieved these performance gains and what it means for developers actually using these models in production. Let's break down what's actually new here. The Terminal Bench 2.0 leadership isn't just about raw coding ability. It's about sustained agentic performance. This benchmark specifically tests whether an AI can maintain context and purpose over extended coding sessions.
What does extended mean in this context? Are we talking hours, days?
The benchmark simulates multi-step coding tasks that would typically take a human developer several hours. Think implementing a feature across multiple files, handling edge cases, writing tests, and refactoring based on code review feedback. Opus 4.6 isn't just writing code, it's thinking like a developer.
That's huge for CI/CD pipelines. Imagine having AI that can not only generate code, but also review PRs, suggest refactors, and maintain coding standards across an entire codebase.
Right, and here's where that 1 million token context window becomes critical. Most codebases have implicit patterns and conventions that span multiple files. Previous models with smaller context windows would lose track of these patterns. They'd suggest changes that technically work, but violate the project's architectural principles.
But context windows are expensive. Each token costs money, and at 1 million tokens, we're talking about significant API costs per request.
True, but consider the alternative. How many API calls do you currently make to analyze different parts of a codebase? How much context do you lose between calls? The economics might actually favor fewer, larger requests with full context.
What about latency? Processing 1 million tokens can't be fast.
They haven't published specific latency numbers yet, but based on their architecture, we're probably looking at initial processing times in the 30 to 60-second range for maximum context. But here's the thing. Once that context is loaded, subsequent interactions within that context should be much faster.
So it's like loading a large project in an IDE. Initial load is slow, but then you have everything indexed and ready.
Exactly. And speaking of IDE-like capabilities, let's talk about browse comp performance. This model can apparently locate hard-to-find information online better than any competitor. That's not just web scraping. That's understanding search intent, evaluating source credibility, and synthesizing information from multiple sources.
That sounds like it could be used for some questionable purposes. Automated OSINT, competitive intelligence gathering.
Which brings us back to the safety question. Anthropic's constitutional AI approach helps here, but they're walking a tightrope. Make the model too restricted and it's not useful. Too capable and it becomes dangerous.
How does constitutional AI actually constrain the model during these agentic tasks? Can it refuse midway through a coding session?
From what we understand, the constitutional training is baked into the model's weights, not just a layer on top. So it's not that it suddenly refuses, it's more that it naturally gravitates towards safer, more ethical solutions. Think of it as having good judgment built in rather than external guardrails.
But good judgment according to whom? Anthropic's values might not align with every organization's needs.
That's the key trade-off. OpenAI's approach with GPT 5.2 is more flexible. You can fine-tune and prompt engineer around most constraints. Anthropic's approach is more opinionated, but potentially more reliable. It depends on whether you want a tool or a partner.
Let's talk about co-work for a second. Autonomous multitasking sounds amazing, but how does it actually work? Is it spinning up multiple instances?
From what they've described, it's more sophisticated than that. Cowork appears to use a hierarchical task decomposition system. Opus 4.6 breaks down complex requests into subtasks, prioritizes them, and executes them in parallel where possible. It's not just multiple instances, it's coordinated execution with shared context.
So it could theoretically research a topic, analyze the findings, create a presentation, and prepare talking points all simultaneously.
Not just theoretically, that's exactly what they're demonstrating. And here's the kicker. It maintains consistency across all these outputs because it's working from the same base context and understanding.
That level of autonomy is both exciting and terrifying. What happens when it makes mistakes? How do you debug an AI that's operating across multiple tasks simultaneously?
They claim Opus 4.6 has better code review and debugging skills to catch its own mistakes. But you're right, the debugging challenge is real. We're moving from deterministic systems to probabilistic ones, and our debugging tools haven't caught up.
The humanities' last exam performance is interesting too. That's testing complex multidisciplinary reasoning, not just coding or writing, but connecting concepts across domains.
Which suggests this isn't just a better coding assistant. This is approaching artificial general intelligence in specific domains. When you combine the reasoning capabilities with the autonomous execution in cowork, you're looking at AI that can handle complex, multifaceted projects independently. Stick around, we'll break down exactly what this means for your development workflow and what you need to consider before jumping in. All right, let's get practical. If you're a developer or engineering leader listening to this, what should you actually do with this information?
Yeah, because it's one thing to get excited about benchmarks, but how does this change my Monday morning?
First decision point, context window utilization. If you're currently chunking your code-base analysis into multiple API calls, it's time to reevaluate. Calculate the total tokens you're using across all those calls versus one comprehensive call with full context. The math might surprise you.
Especially if you're losing accuracy from context switching between calls. What about existing Claude users? Is this a drop-in replacement?
Not quite. Opus 4.6 appears to have different prompting characteristics. Early reports suggest it responds better to more structured, goal-oriented prompts rather than conversational ones. If you're migrating from Opus 4.5 or even Sonnet 3.5, budget time for prompt engineering.
That's a hidden cost people don't talk about enough. Every model upgrade means revalidating your entire prompt library.
Exactly. Here's my recommendation. Start with your most complex use cases first. The performance gap is most noticeable on multi-step, reasoning-heavy tasks. Simple content generation, you might not see enough improvement to justify the switch.
What about existing Claude users? Is this a drop-in replacement?
Not quite. Opus 4.6 appears to have different prompting characteristics. Early reports suggest it responds better to more structured, goal-oriented prompts rather than conversational ones. If you're migrating from Opus 4.5 or even Sonnet 3.5, budget time for prompt engineering.
That's a hidden cost people don't talk about enough. Every model upgrade means revalidating your entire prompt library.
Exactly. Here's my recommendation. Start with your most complex use cases first. The performance gap is most noticeable on multi-step, reasoning-heavy tasks. Simple content generation, you might not see enough improvement to justify the switch.
What about the competitive landscape? If I'm choosing between Claude, GPT 4.2, and Gemini for a new project, what's the decision framework?
3 factors to consider. First, task complexity. For multi-file code analysis and complex reasoning, Opus 4.6 has the edge. Second, integration needs. OpenAI still has the most mature ecosystem. Third, values alignment. If AI safety and predictable behavior matter to your use case, Anthropic's constitutional approach might be worth the trade-offs.
But how do we validate these safety claims? It's not like we can pen test an AI model.
Actually, you can and should. Set up adversarial testing scenarios. Try to make it generate harmful code, bypass security practices, or leak sensitive information. Document where it refuses and where it complies. That's your real safety baseline.
Speaking of testing, what about using Opus 4.6 for test generation? With that context window, it could understand entire test suites.
That's one of the most immediate applications. Feed it your code base and existing tests, ask it to identify coverage gaps, and generate comprehensive test cases. But here's the key. Review everything. These models are great at pattern matching, but can miss subtle business logic.
The agentic capabilities in cowork. Should teams be worried about job displacement?
I'd reframe that. The question isn't whether AI will do more knowledge work. It will. The question is whether you're the person directing that AI or the person being replaced by the AI. Start experimenting now. Understand its capabilities and limitations. Become the human in the loop who adds judgment and context that AI can't.
What should we watch for in the next 6 months?
3 things. First, pricing wars. These context windows are expensive, and someone's going to blink first on pricing. Second, integration depth. Watch for IDE plugins, CI/CD integrations, and enterprise features. Third, safety incidents. As these models get more powerful and autonomous, we'll likely see public failures that shape regulation.
You think regulation is coming?
It's not if, it's when and how. The EU is already drafting AI acts. The US is having hearings. China's implementing their own standards. The window for self-regulation is closing. Companies that proactively implement safety measures, like Anthropic's constitutional approach, might find themselves ahead of regulatory requirements.
So the constitutional AI might be as much about future-proofing as current safety.
Exactly. Here's my hot take. The AI safety focus isn't just ethical positioning. It's a strategic bet that regulated AI markets will favor predictable, auditable systems. Anthropic's betting that safe and capable aren't opposing forces, but complementary features.
Final question. If you had to pick one thing for listeners to try this week, what would it be?
Take your most complex, context-heavy problem, the one that requires understanding multiple systems or documents, and throw it at Opus 4.6. Don't just ask questions. Give it goals. Let it plan and execute. You'll either discover a new way of working or understand exactly why human judgment remains irreplaceable. Either outcome is valuable.
And document what you learn. We're all figuring this out together.
The gap between AI capabilities and our ability to effectively use them is widening. The organizations that close that gap fastest will have a significant competitive advantage. Don't wait for best practices to emerge. Start creating them. Before we wrap up, let's catch up on this week's infrastructure news. There's a fascinating development in the maritime tech world. Longitude just unveiled their new D-Flex platform supply vessel design, part of their IMT ISCA series. This compact PSV is specifically engineered for cost efficiency in offshore energy operations, particularly targeting the Asian market.
Interesting timing with all the offshore wind projects ramping up in Asia. MarineLink reports this design focuses on operational flexibility. Sounds like they're trying to make these vessels more adaptable to different types of offshore work.
Exactly. The D-Flex design emphasizes modularity, which could be a game changer for operators who need vessels that can switch between different offshore energy projects without major retrofitting.
Speaking of competition, the AI coding assistant space just got wild. OpenAI dropped GPT 5.3 codex literally minutes after Anthropic announced their own agentic coding model yesterday.
According to TechCrunch, OpenAI claims their new model is significantly faster than previous versions. The timing is definitely not coincidental. Both companies are racing to dominate the autonomous coding market.
Minutes apart? That's either incredible coincidence or someone was watching someone else's announcement schedule very closely.
Here's something unexpected. OpenAI's GPT-5 is now optimizing biological processes. They've partnered with Ginkgo Bioworks to reduce the cost of cell-free protein synthesis by 40%.
Wait, so AI is now designing biological experiments autonomously?
That's right. OpenAI's announcement details how GPT-5 runs an autonomous lab that optimizes protein production costs. This could dramatically accelerate biotech research and make protein-based therapeutics more affordable.
And if you thought that was futuristic, Elon Musk is apparently serious about putting data centers in orbit. TechCrunch reports he's exploring merging SpaceX and xAI to build space-based computing infrastructure.
The article mentions using space-based solar power for these orbital data centers. The economics are intriguing. No real estate costs, unlimited solar energy.
But the latency issues and maintenance challenges would be enormous, though for certain AI workloads that aren't time-sensitive, it might actually work.
Now, for our software updates, VLLM just released version 0.15.1, and this is important, it's a security release addressing 2 CVEs.
Security patches are always critical. What else is in there?
Beyond the security fixes for AIO-HTTP and protobuf dependencies, they've added support for RTX Blackwell GPUs, that's NVIDIA's latest workstation cards. The release notes specifically mention fixing issues with FP8 and MOE models that were failing to load on these new GPUs.
So if you're running VLLM on those shiny new Blackwell cards, definitely grab this update. The Triton kernel fallback fix alone could save you some headaches.
That wraps up today's news. That's our show for today.
If you found this valuable, please subscribe and share with a friend who'd appreciate it.
Drop us a comment with your thoughts on today's topic.
Links to everything we discussed are in the show notes.
Until next time.